My phone says it's a little early, but we have a full house, 100% attendance, so under the assumption if we never start, we'll never get to finish. So let's call the meeting to order.
Okay.
We have minutes from the October 9th meeting were sent out. Do we have any comments, additions, corrections, observations? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
We have official minutes. Under the chairman's report, I got a couple of things. One, I want to thank the commission and the staff for notes and cards, and I didn't get any emails, but text messages and a nice bouquet of flowers when I was on my unplanned 8-day vacation to the University of Maryland Medical System. It was a wonderful stay, and thank you for your concerns. It caused me to miss this meeting, which I don't get the perfect attendance record. Yeah, and I was working for that. However, on a brighter note, thanking you for the flowers, somebody's birthday was yesterday,
Oh, my God.
and this bouquet of roses, Jamie, and other flowers, has 7 red roses representing your commission, and the yellow one in the middle is you. We're tempted to sing happy birthday. Anybody want to volunteer to lead? The only other thing I have on my notes is that the business retention expansion surveys that we all participated in, thank you for participating, that is a work in process. So don't have the results now. Katie and Jamie are assimilating and coordinating all of the feedback, which we got was massive. And that's great. And that will lead us to some conclusions. It will lead us probably to more business visits, maybe before the end of the year, but probably after January. We'll start doing more once we know better what we're doing and what we're looking for. So that's something that we can look forward to.
How many were interviewed total? 10?
We had 10.
We did all 10, yeah.
Yeah. I do have one other thing. Under new business, we'll be talking about election of officers. And so be thinking about all the positions you may want to run for. Now, I will move out of the way. The assumption is Mr. Athey, who is vice chair, will move up unless we can dig up some information that would embarrass him. But that notwithstanding, Charlie would move up, and then we would be electing a vice chair. So we'd be looking for nominations and other thoughts you have about the leadership of this organization. Questions?
No.
Okay. We have not one, but 2 speakers today, the first of whom is John Hickman, Director of Beacon. And if I remember, Beacon is the Economic and Community Outreach Network. Close.
This was at the front of it, you got that.
All right. John, the table is yours. That microphone should be on.
Okay,
And
thank
you're
you.
housed at Salisbury University.
Yes, so here's a couple of copies of the report. You may have seen it electronically. I'm also a analog person, so I just thought I'd bring a couple of copies for you all to look at.
It's on the screen.
Thank you all for having me. I want to go through today. First of all, I want to thank Jamie, and a happy birthday. I didn't know Jamie, but
That was yesterday.
well, hey, I'm a believer in you get a birthday week. You pick one weekend or the other, right? So it was Wednesday, so you could probably pick either one. So I want to thank Jamie and all of our economic development directors. So the way that our business sentiment survey gets out is by promotion from economic development directors. They know the business community. We have it on social media, but really you are talking about getting your own survey done and getting surveys done. Sometimes if it comes from a known entity, people are more likely to fill it out. So thank you for the efforts you've done since this started. Next slide.
Trying to get there, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, so I will give you a quick overview of Beacon for those of you who don't know what Beacon is. We offer business and economic research data for a range of entities, nonprofit, for-profit, and governmental entities across, particularly Maryland and Delaware. We've done projects as far away as Oklahoma and New York State, but in general, we're in Maryland and Delaware is where the majority of our clients are. Really important to us is both of our missions. And I'll go reverse of what it probably says up there. The first of them is giving data to make educated answers to leaders, whether they be nonprofit leaders, for-profit leaders, or governmental entities. So that's one of the first things we do. But equally important is part of the way that we do it. So every project we complete, we involve students in our work, and usually some collaboration with other faculty at Salisbury University. So it gives students an ability to practice what they're learning in the classroom in the real world. When they go out, when they graduate, they've conducted interviews with business owners. They've done applied research. They've tabulated numbers. They've helped draft reports. So they go out into the workforce with skills that the employers want. And for our faculty, there are faculty who want to see practical application of the research that they're doing. So we work not only with business faculty, we've got a project right now, we've got a nursing faculty that's helping us on a feasibility and needs assessment for a substance abuse facility on the Lower Shore. So she has a background in public health, great fit with that. We've been at Salisbury University now for 35 years. We complete about 15 to 20 projects per year, this being one of them that is goes on. We've done it now. I'll go through the details of that for over 3 years, but we have other ones, those of you maybe in workforce, we complete for the state of Maryland the analysis of the EARN program. Every year we write a report that goes to the legislature and the governor. So that's what we've been doing for 11 years now. Some of them are a small single project that we might do. And I don't know if I'm too far away from the microphone. Is that better?
You're good. You're good.
Okay.
And I will share, this report was shared prior, but after the meeting, I'll share it again along with the presentation. So you don't need to take detailed notes. I'll share that so you'll have it.
Okay, thank you. Next slide. So the business sentiment survey, we've conducted this survey every 6 months since June of 2021. And it sprung out of a desire by economic development directors to say, we're doing a lot of stuff around the COVID pandemic. Is it effective? What do business owners need? How are they feeling, right? So that was the original impetus. Previously, up until 2018, Beacon had done a much shorter business sentiment survey. This is more extensive than that one. Our earlier one was a 6-question survey. The goal of that was just to get, how do businesses feel about conditions in their industry, on Delmarva, in the current period, and 1 year out. So we were looking at very simple data. This one, we've expanded those questions. The original geography was the mid-shore counties, and then it expanded to the upper shore and lower shore about a year later. So next. So I want to give you a little bit of the trends that we saw so I'll preface this. The results in December of 23 were abysmal. I write that report, and I always try to put some positive spin in there. I was digging hard to find anything. So business sentiment in December of 23 was very low. By June, optimism had increased. We'll talk about a few of the areas where people talked about that. But business owners were really positive about the short-term prospects. And then looking at standard of living, the outlook for 5 years out increased by 25 points from the December survey. So a really solid increase of what people think going forward in the U.S. economy. And 68% believed that the business conditions in their county would improve over the next 12 months. And we noticed this not only in this business sentiment survey, we do ones for some other counties in Maryland. Business owners in our survey and in other surveys are less optimistic about the national level. And so I started digging around about that, and it's something that nationally is being seen. And some of the analysis of it says that people can be very clear on the things that they see around them. So in their county or their region, they know the conditions that are happening. But if you ask, and you can think of weather, what's the weather like in the whole country today, right? So you're probably not clear. Or if I asked you about what the weather in Missouri is, you probably wouldn't be clear. So it's that as you escape the area that you know, some of that lack of optimism is because they're not clear. So we may adjust the survey to say, not enough knowledge, and that may help us understand that. Next slide. And so just giving an outlook here, if you look, the green line, I had to look what was up there. Green line is what people think is better, much better. You can't see it, it was a gray line, is unchanged, and the red line is worse. So if you look in June of 23, you see that the better, much better was pretty low, 35%, I think. If you look in the third graph set there, you've got people that are over 60%, right? So a really big jump there. And then when you look at, likewise, for Maryland and the nation, it was worse in June of 23. So a big jump, equally big jump with that. So again, that increasing optimism. Next slide. And then, my colors didn't translate well there, I'm sorry. The conditions in their own sector, looking at that, so you can see that businesses look at improving sector conditions in their own sector, and much fewer looking at deteriorating conditions. Looking in the next 12 months, the same optimism there. So businesses looking at where they're doing business, so it could be in the hospitality business, and I'll just tell you, our highest participation number is firms in the hospitality business. Lowest, as you might guess, is mining. Not many mining firms on the Eastern Shore. Next slide. Looking at the next 5 years, the standard of living on Maryland's Eastern Shore. Again, you can see an increase of about 15 points in the standard of living from 23 to 24. And then also looking at nationally, you can see, almost a 20% increase of what people think that it's going to be improving. And also, we did have people who answered in a recession or depression, but you'll see that number also is improved on Maryland's Eastern Shore, and less so when you look at the larger sphere. So if you'll click this, so looking at challenges that businesses see for starting a business, and this is where, so advice with Jamie as she's looking, like what are the conditions that are really impacting firms? Labor force, until this last survey, was number one. So businesses, as you all know, have been continually concerned about their labor force.
Is availability or quality?
We just have the general question, the labor force conditions, right? So it could be quality, could be availability. We do see comments, so we pass on We don't put that in the report, but we do pass on comments that go to the economic development directors are, what are the things that people comment on? It's mixed. It's quality and it's availability.
John, I have a question. When you're looking at the Eastern Shore,
Right.
how does the breakdown of industry sectors compare to the national scene?
So,
Is there one industry or two industries on the Eastern Shore that predominate in comparison to the industries in the national scene?
so I haven't done a look at Eastern Shore versus national, but versus Maryland, we have a higher, and this is, you're probably, overall, government sector is higher on the Eastern Shore. Of course, that includes public schools. We have 2 state universities on the Eastern Shore for relatively small population. So we have a higher governmental component on the Eastern Shore. For the Eastern Shore versus Maryland, a lower tech sector. And you can think of that if you travel to the Washington-Baltimore region, all the firms that are involved in cybersecurity and programming, that's much higher in Maryland as a whole than what we have here on the Eastern Shore.
I assume we also have a much higher agricultural industry sector.
So with the ag production industry, yes. Overall, ag and resource base, so that includes food production, further production, we're not a huge difference there because there's a lot of further processing that happens to timber products and agricultural products across the state of Maryland. And that's a big driver of the ag industry, if you look at the total impact of, so another, we also do for Maryland, every 5 years we do a survey of the impact of agriculture. So that's why I know, I'm familiar with some of those impacts that agriculture has. What was surprising to me is if you look in July, number 1 was financing. And that, so we don't ask whether it's availability of financing or cost of financing, but certainly the cost of financing and the credit conditions that lenders were looking at had tightened up in the last year. So business owners are saying, all right, labor is, unemployment is getting above, a really, really low number. But because of the cost of financing and increasing credit standards, we're having a harder time finding that. Inflation bumped around in there, but inflation has been on business people's minds pretty consistently. There's only 2 of the times that we had that was not a factor. It was actually 1 in June of 22, but it hung around in number 2 position most of the time.
On this matrix, John, the white spaces are
They would be something else.
4, 5, 6.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're tracking 1, 2, and 3.
Well, we're tracking all of them, but I think to make it clear, it starts to get really muddled when we put all of the conditions that people are responding to. Likewise, for expanding a business, labor force continued in there, right? Because people who are starting a business, maybe they're only starting with 1 other employee. If you're expanding a business, you may be looking for specific skill sets for that, and those may not be available. So that was 1 or 2 consistently through the survey. Inflation dropped off in this last survey, and again, financing came in number 1 as the barrier to expanding a business. Again, cost of funds, credit conditions leading to that. So,
How many businesses are in the survey?
so the last survey, I think we had around 200. We've been, our high number was around 400. And I will say I was very disappointed because Beacon, out of our own pocket, said, we're going to put a $100 gift card. I thought that might goose the numbers a little bit. It didn't. So
They owe you a dinner.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you can choose, a lot of people get an award or one person gets something big, and our experience has been people respond better to one big award than you're going to get $1, right? So we thought, $100, that should get people's attention, but it did not. So we're working with the economic development directors. One of the things, our survey in the winter, we have changed from doing it from around Thanksgiving to the first of the year, instead starting January 1 and running it for the month of January, hoping that we don't have the holiday interruptions, that people are paying attention, they're getting prepared to do their taxes, they may be paying attention to their numbers.
Relating to Judy's question, are you going back to the same companies again in January or a whole new database?
So they will be many of the same firms, right? So we work with the economic development director. So it's the firms that are in the county, and there's only so many new firms that are created. So now we do not track. So this is an anonymous survey. If you had responded this year and you don't respond next year, but Judy, you respond, we won't know. We'll know that you both responded from Kent County, but if you were in the same industry, we wouldn't know that. We wouldn't know who it was. We don't track that. So
You can't slice and dice your data by industry?
we can slice and dice it by industry. We don't report that, particularly because we've gotten to such a small number in some industries. Again, in the hospitality industry and the retail industry, we've got enough numbers that we could report on the Eastern Shore. But when you get to manufacturing, you get to such a small number that you would be reporting. I don't think that anyone would do it, but you could have people that say, well, you've disclosed my private information. And that's one of the most important things, not only for this survey, but any of the surveys that we do. We want individuals to know that their information comes in and it's reported out in the aggregate. If we were getting 4,000 responses, it'd be easy to do that. I don't expect that on the Eastern Shore we would get up to that number of responses.
John, we've kind of slid into question and answers. You've got more information to share?
No, so the one information I do have, if we want to go to the last, you asked if I had a request, and that is if you will share this out with businesses that you know when the survey link comes out. Getting participation is one of the most important things to us. So that's my request.
How do you go about doing that?
Jamie will.
We push it out. We push it out in the newsletters. We push it out in emails, newsletters, social media, different ways like that. Try to get businesses to respond. Yep.
Yeah, and again, from your perspective, if there, as with anything, that if there's an initiative in the county, you all on the Tourism and Economic Development Board, you're the resource that business owners probably look to. And if you say, if someone says to you, oh, I got this this survey link from Jamie, I don't know if it's spam. No, it's not. We're getting good information out of that.
So, just wonder, could you give us some examples of the feasibility and needs assessments that you've done outside of this survey?
Yeah, so we are, as I said, we're in the process of starting a needs assessment survey for a substance use treatment facility on the Lower Shore. We just completed one with Talbot County on a visitor center. Other ones that we've done, junior achievements, it's not JA BizTown here, but they're JA BizTown entity. If you haven't been there, I will say that's a field trip you should go on. It's absolutely fabulous. We did a feasibility study for them about, I guess it started about 5 years ago. The facility opened a year and a little bit ago, and it's absolutely fabulous. that was looking at the feasibility really of raising the capital for that, and some suggestions on how to have ongoing funding. So if you go there, you will see there are either business or industry groups that have storefronts. So students go in and they'll see Pohanka Automotive Group, or they'll see NASA has a storefront there. And then industry-wise, the ag industry got together, and several entities have just the ag industry as a whole. So that's a quick overview of a few that we've done in the last few years.
Okay, thank you.
Final questions for John?
Yeah, what do you attribute the increase in business optimism for the future to?
So, number one, if you notice, inflation dropped off. And if you talk to almost any business owner, the worst thing is not knowing how much it's going to cost you to deliver a product, and how much it's going to cost you to pay your employees. So as that inflation number started dropping off, business owners probably said, I am more confident about how my business is operating. Because I'm not going to have, I don't expect that I'll have the surprise of a 20% increase in one of my raw materials. Or my cost of labor is now $1 more per hour, right? So having that, if the drop off of that inflation number, and some increasing stability of supply. And you look during COVID, it was even worse. It wasn't just increasing prices, it was increasing prices on material they couldn't get. I mean, there's still some industries, if you're in the construction industry, the first thing you buy is your electrical panel, because you got 16 months to get an electrical panel in. Right, but at least they've gotten used to that. It's not going from 3 months to 6 months to that's built into it. So they've adjusted to those price changes and some of the supply disruption.
One final question for Mr. Hickman.
I just want to say the disconnect between their view of their business versus national, how do they think those things happened? I mean, we don't live in a bubble. I just find that interesting.
So it was, again, that was
Yeah.
the most, that's why I really did some digging. The first
Yeah,
time I
it's
saw it, I
just-
thought, this is odd. But again, we do some studies for other areas in the region, and it was there too. So I said, well, maybe it's not an Eastern Shore thing. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
you say, well, we feel like an island, so maybe that was my initial thought. But it really is that it's that lack of knowledge. So you can be very confident on what you see around yourself and less confident and maybe less optimistic. Because usually what you see if you're reading the news about things that are out of your area, you see more of the negative news aspects.
Mr. Hickman, thank you for
Thank you.
bringing us compelling information. I know you've got another meeting in Salisbury tonight. You've got to rush home too. Say hi to Dave Ryan for me.
I sure will.
So-
Yeah. Dave was lucky. He had the president of the Richmond Fed in Salisbury last night. So pretty good company down there. So yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our
Thank you all.
next speaker kind of connects with Salisbury State University. One of the masters that she serves is Erin Silva, going to talk about the Eastern Shore GIS Cooperative Delmarva Index. I did want to put my glasses on.
Would you prefer that I be here, or would it be okay that I go over there and operate and scroll through? Sure. Okay.
And the website that Erin's using, I will send that along with the presentation and the report again as well, so you'll have it all in one email.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for the time on the agenda and your interest in learning more about the ESRGC and the Delmarva Index. I hope that as I go through these products, these are all free and publicly available, so you can go online right now and access these. I hope that maybe something that I bring up today might be something that is of interest to you, and maybe you could use in your current operations, or maybe another Kent County department could benefit from these. So I really appreciate helping get the word out. That's sometimes difficult. We create all these great tools, and then we have to spread the word. So first of all, the Eastern Shore Regional GIS Cooperative is who I'm here representing, and it's all these beautiful people in this picture. We are an outreach entity of Salisbury University, and we're a collaborative effort between all of the 3 regional councils on Maryland's Eastern Shore, so the Upper Shore, which is where we are right now, Mid-Shore and Lower Shore, and then of course Salisbury University. Our team consists of GIS and programming specialists, and we form partnerships with all different kinds of entities, primarily local, county, state, and federal partners encompass most of who we partner with, but we also have other partners with private and nonprofit organizations. And we are in the business of making advanced data-driven decision-making tools. And primarily that comes in the form of maps, data dashboards. We do, a big part of our operation is GIS and mapping. And so a map is a decision-making tool right there, but we also have branched out in the past 10, 15 years. We've been doing lots of what we call geo dashboards, charts, maps, graphs, all put together to show really high complex data and voluminous data in a very easy way, sort of like a car dashboard tells you when things are going really badly or okay.
Aaron, before you go too deep in your report, tell us what GIS is.
Geographic Information Systems.
Okay.
Or science. There's a debate there, but yes, both. So today I wanted to focus on Delmarva Index, and we'll touch on some of the projects that John just spoke about, the business sentiment survey, and so I'll try to get through it as much as I can. Hopefully this link can be shared afterwards. I have links to all of the stuff we're going to talk about here today, and of course you can get to a lot of them just by going to the delmarvaindex.org link. But first of all, the Delmarva Index is a collaborative effort between the ESRGC, the Mid-Shore Regional Council, and the Tri-County Council of the Lower Eastern Shore. And we are supported by the Rural Maryland Council, the RMC, through RIMPIP. So lots of acronyms. I'm sure you have all heard of the Rural Maryland Prosperity Investment Fund. That has been ongoing for some time, and it's really been integral in helping us launch this website and maintain it and keep adding good resources to it every year. And in a nutshell, what this is it provides access to data visualization, data itself, and data visualization tools specific to Delmarva. So demographic, economic, geographic, social data, and not just the data like if you've ever been to the census, where you get tables upon tables of data and it's all just numbers and spreadsheets. We try to make that more actionable by, like I said, putting it in a dashboard where you can see the trend over time and you can see how you are comparing to your neighbor or to the state or the nation. So really quick. And that is basically our goal at the Delmarva Index. So we have been working with the Mid-Shore and the Lower Shore regional councils and through Salisbury University for a long time, even prior to 2019, but the Delmarva Index was officially launched in 2019, and like I said, we add resources to it every year. On the right, you'll see some of those data dashboards and infographics and websites that we have created. I'm going to highlight the ones here in bold, if I can get to them all, tonight in my time, but there's lots of other ones. If you go to the website, you'll see lots of options there. So one of them that we've gotten a lot of positive feedback is the workforce infographics. And the idea for this came to us from a partner at the University of Maryland Ag Extension in Talbot County, excuse me, who she was submitting a grant, and she needed to know information about not only like the population and some of that demographic, social, and information that I mentioned for a municipality, but she was interested in not just that, but like what is it 10 miles from that municipality, 20 miles, and so forth, because sometimes those stats for a particular municipality aren't very impressive, but just 10, 20 minutes outside of that, which 20 minutes is nothing, so that it really grows. So she wanted to show that in her grant, and nothing existed at the time to help her get those numbers, so that's where we, that was what inspired this. So we have these different geographic levels that you can explore, the county, municipality, and commute areas. And this is what they look like. So I pulled the one up for Kent County, and we have data on income, business, commuters, key facts, education, and employment. We're getting data from Esri, which is actually a proprietary software that we use for mapping, and then the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the American Community Survey. And like I mentioned, you have these stats, but as I'll show later on, you can hover over a lot of these and get another graph that allows you to compare that statistic to a neighboring county, the state, or the nation. So for the municipalities, which is what we've gotten a lot of our positive feedback, is getting county data is pretty easy. Getting data for a municipality is not as easy. So we've gotten a good response that people like to see their town, the statistics for their town. And we have over 100 municipalities shown on this tool. And then these commute areas, which are really interesting to look at. So I've got Chestertown pulled up here. The one on the left, the orange one, is 10 minutes commute from Chestertown, and then 20 minutes, and then 40 minutes over here in blue. So you can see how that population really jumps, the median disposable income, businesses, all of that. So you can see how that would really help in a grant submission if you're saying my workforce is this, or that. And that can really change dramatically. And I mentioned that a lot of these elements are interactive. So in this little video, you see me clicking around on the stats. I click on them, and then another chart pops up to show more in depth. So instead of just looking at that median household income as $72,412, I can see the distribution of the income brackets. So where are most of the people at in income? So a lot of good stuff to explore there.
How current is your data?
As current as we can possibly get it. So on this particular product, we update them every year. We update them in the summer, and it's a hard question to ask because it's a conglomerate of so many different data sources. So it is whatever is most current from ESRI, BLS, and ACS at that time.
So there could be a mix of
Yes,
currency
Correct.
and individual.
correct. Because we try to pull different data sources together to give you that view. But we do have support to maintain these, and that's a really important point, is if we just put this out there and let it sit there, it would quickly become stale and not useful anymore. So through the regional councils and RIMPIF, we've been able to keep maintaining them. So these are just some of the fun questions that you can explore with this tool. And again, just another mention that they can be explored for individual geographies as well as compared to the state and nation. And so another initiative that is related to the Delmarva Index, the funding is a little bit different and the story behind it, but it is the Eastern Shore Economic Resiliency Toolkit. This was launched in July 2020 as a direct response to COVID. And for this, we brought together a whole committee to guide us through this process. It's economic and workforce development specialists and the ESRGC specialist, the data visualization specialist at the ESRGC. Again, managed by the Midshore and Tri-County Council. You'll see a theme here. We partner with them a lot. And this one was funded by the US EDA. So the EDA had money that they were giving to all of the economic development districts, and they wanted to, the money was intended to go towards a position for the councils to hire to help them with resilience. Well, the Midshore and the Lower Shore already had a resiliency plan in their SEDS document, so they asked the EDA and were approved to do something different with that money, and this is what they chose to do. So we developed a suite of tools, and you're seeing a video of that website. There's 4 different tools in this website. The home page, which is what you're looking at now, there's 3 different dashboards focusing on healthcare, poverty, and business. And you see me clicking around. You can click Kent County. You can look at the number of businesses and the types of businesses and payroll and individuals living in poverty and all kinds of things. And this is the demographic indicators, which are more map focused. So instead of having a lot of charts, it's mostly just a map, very focused view, but we can explore unemployment, labor force trends, remote workers, all sorts of things. There's 8 of them. And I've pulled up one here to show you how that differs from those dashboards. So this is the unemployment for Kent County, and it shows the change from last month. So are you gaining or losing? Is unemployment rising or falling? And then another fun one I thought was the daytime population. And for Chestertown, I think in our previous workforce infographic, it said that the resident population was around like 5,500-ish for Chestertown. And this is saying that the daytime population is double that, at 10,000. So you have a lot of people commuting in to work. So that kind of just helps highlight these commuting patterns, and are most people going out or coming in? It's interesting to know. And so the business sentiment survey. So we, John already gave a great primer to that survey and really dug into the results of that. So I won't do that, but I'll just tell you some of the other tools that are available to show and highlight those results. The business sentiment survey is part of this Eastern Shore Economic Resiliency Toolkit. And so we had a whole committee of folks guiding that and helping to build it and distribute it and all of that. So the survey results are available in these different formats, the report that he shared, and there's a link to that here as well. And then on the right, there's the infographic that the ESRGC created, really just high level, what are the highlights from the survey. There's also a dashboard that we created that is behind a username and password. It's probably one of the only tools of ours that I can think of that's not publicly accessible, and John did a great job of explaining why, because we want to protect the confidentiality of the respondents, and in some cases we get pretty low, just not a lot of people responding, businesses, so we want to protect that. But we wanted to give tools to the economic development professionals in the counties that they can dig in and look at very detailed results that aren't in the narrative or that, infographic. So I just put a couple images on here. There's 6 different tabs because it is a very extensive survey. It's a 50-question survey. You can select, I think you all were asking, can you see results for a particular county? This image right here shows you how many people responded to that survey overall, and then the geographic distribution of those responses. And it like 7 businesses responded in Kent County to the last survey, so we really want to up that number next time. And then it tells you what their role in the organization, the company size, lots of information there. And just another visual of those responses. Another one of the tools within this is the Maryland Tax Revenue Dashboard and also the Tourism Dashboard. And I'm actually going to jump to that one just because of the focus of this committee is tourism and economic development. So both the tourism and the Maryland Tax Revenue Dashboards were built using Maryland Comptroller sales and use tax data. And we're using that in this instance to estimate the total revenue, and in this, tourism revenue. So we have many different views here. We can view it as a quick view where we have the overall revenue, percent of industry revenue, best and worst months. We can also, in the across years tab, we can select multiple years to see a trend of that over time. Across sectors is where we can look at the 8 sectors that make up the tourism industry, which are these, the automobile, commercial airlines, and so forth. We did not make this up. This is what is agreed upon as defining the tourism industry by the Comptroller's Office and the State Department of Tourism. So you can look at across sectors, and you can also view this across boundaries. So if you're interested in looking at the Upper Shore, you would want to select across boundaries and then select those 3 counties that make up the Upper Shore, if you're interested in seeing the differences there. So I wanted to give enough time, so I breezed through the Maryland Tax Revenue Dashboard, but that was very similar to the tourism. It's just instead of looking at the tourism industry, we're looking at 8 or maybe 10 more broad categories like general merchandise, food and beverage, broader sort of apparel is one of, here they are, apparel, automotive, building and contractors. So that's really the main difference between the tourism and tax revenue. But I wanted to make sure I had enough time to get to these other suite of tools. So we received a lot of recognition, and not only for the tools themselves in the Resiliency Toolkit, but also the partnership that we formed. We got a lot of good recognition from that, and that allowed us, actually, Nancy LaJoyce was instrumental in helping make connections and recommendations and things for this opportunity that is, again, funded by the U.S. Economic Development Administration, and this time additional funds through the governor's, there was more money from the governor's office to help fund this. And so the Maryland Department of Commerce, in this case, was the oversight, the management, instead of the councils. So they just wanted us to continue this good work, keep building resilience tools, not just for the Eastern Shore, but across Maryland. So these are the four tools that we built for them. Again, it was a 2-year initiative. So we were roughly producing one of these every 6 months or so. We have 2 on manufacturing, one that shows the industry as a whole. So how many establishments how many manufacturing establishments, the employment, wages, and location quotient for that. And you can also view it not only as just the manufacturing industry, but also as the subsector. So what types of manufacturing is happening in different counties and regions. And then we have the manufacturing workforce that really goes into the characteristics of people working in that industry and the various subsectors. We have the transferable skills dashboard, which is this one up in the right, and I'm going to slide down to, I'm going out of order here, I'm sorry. This one is really interesting to me, the transferable skills. It helps to communicate and sort of analyze the occupational landscape. And for this one, we didn't have county data. It was the workforce investment area. So the regions, the Upper Shore is quite large. But this is looking at employment projections and the occupations that are growing and shrinking, and then what other occupations are related to that occupation that you have selected. So up here in the top, you select your region, your occupation, you get the percent change and those projection numbers up here, and then this tree map down here, all these boxes, will show you related occupations. So if you can see how that could be really interesting and a lot of potential use cases that, these are just some that we've identified. Advising companies on and organizations on hiring and recruitment decisions, educational institutions looking at different workforce needs and how they can help design different programs to meet those needs, and even just employers looking at moving to a region and assessing different workforce, the different workforces in that region and how they need, if it's being met, if they need to look at other reskilling or upskilling of the current workforce. This is just one tab on this, there's 2 other tabs. A lot of these are very in-depth. They take some time to review and absorb and consider. I'll go right back up to the last one that I will leave you with, and I'll stop for questions. This is the Maryland Economic Dashboard. We have 9 different topics coming down here in black. The one in red is labor force, that's one I have highlighted here. Lots of different, everywhere from demographics, housing, labor force, business. We have lots of different things to explore here, 5 different sources. All of the design of all these different tabs pretty much mirrors what you see here. With the map, you can select Kent County, and the question that you asked earlier about the industries in Maryland and different counties, if you go to employment and business on this dashboard, you can explore that. So you can see what those predominant industries are, how many businesses there are. So there's also lots to explore here as well. And again, you can compare Kent County to Maryland in the U.S. We're looking at unemployment right here. But yeah, there's so much here. I could talk for hours, but I don't want to. This is just to introduce you to some of the things that are free and available to you.
Good. Questions for Erin?
You did some workshops on using these with, was it Talbot and Queen Anne's County?
We did, yes, at the library.
Yeah, so could you explain, you walked through, like, different departments came to that from the county government, I guess, and so how did you focus them? What was sort of the gist of your program?
That presentation?
Yeah.
It was very much, actually, like what we're doing tonight.
But more in
We
depth?
just had an hour.
Uh-huh.
We had an hour to talk, and it was much more focused on Talbot County, so my partner and I were there co-presenting, and we would pull up different statistics for Talbot County, looking at housing and business, and so it was very much just more Talbot County focused.
Got it.
And we were only, I think we were looking at a lot of the same tools that I've shared with you tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's something to think about for a meeting. We could dedicate a whole hour to that, because part of that is that it's limited to an hour, because when you sit at your kitchen table and you go through these, and you just get down these rabbit holes, and you forget what your original question even was. And then, you get so overwhelmed that it's daunting.
I understand, and we are actually in this fiscal year, we just had a meeting yesterday to talk with our partners about redesign for our website to make it a little bit more, it's 5 years old in technology, that's like a dinosaur, so we really need a revamp, and we're hoping to streamline some things on the back end also to help, like if you type in population, you'll get tools that will answer that question that relevant to population. Sort of the nature of the beast, many of our tools have so many different topics, it's hard to say, this is a dashboard about population, because it's so many, but yes, it takes time to explore, and but if there's ever a question, if you leave with nothing else tonight, I hope that, like I said, this will be shared, and if there's ever a question that you have of what resource is available, I have this question, is there a resource on Delmarva Index that will help me explore this, answer this, visualize it, just email me.
Okay, thank
Call
you.
me.
Judy Gifford used the term overwhelmed. This is a lot of information, some of which I think most of us couldn't see, but if
And we got the gist.
it's too small. You got the gist, but if, Jamie, if you can send out the link
Absolutely.
to this page, and we can sit around Judy's kitchen table and go through it all.
I apologize for that, but
Yeah,
yes,
that's
it's
no problem.
much better over here.
Good presentation. Other questions? Paula, you're leaning.
No, I'm fascinated. I'm a data nerd.
Oh, good.
But we'll get the link so we could access this system and the tools that are.
You can
associated.
access it without, anybody can access it.
If you go to
That's-
Delmarva
that's
Index.
No,
what I get.
I'm just saying that it's not special to us getting the link, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
But I need the link in order to figure out how to access it.
pretty easy.
And Aaron, we can get your contact information and pepper you with more questions.
Please do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Other questions? Aaron, thank you.
Thank you.
Very comprehensive. Let's move on to staff reports.
All right, let's start with some good news. It's all good news. Short-term rental update. So we just finished, July, August, September collections, so quarter one. Very pleased to report that the total taxes collected for quarter one, by my calculations, I need to get an official report from Pat. I'm waiting on that, but according to my calculations, 175,000 plus. And FY 2024 first quarter was the highest first quarter recorded in many years, and that was 145. So we're 30,000 above that. So the project was fruitful. Has already increased revenues to the municipalities and the counties by 30,000 for just the first quarter. 72% of the properties are in compliance according to the software, and that's 124 properties. If there's any questions on that, happy to answer them whenever.
So it's $175,000 quarterly from all these businesses?
Total collected, yes.
And it's consistent over the quarters, or is this their annual payment during that quarter? Is
That's
it like a rolling thing, or?
Okay, so that's the total collection for quarter one. So for July, August, and September, that's the total
They
for
pay
quarter one.
quarterly, each business pays quarterly?
Nope, each business pays monthly now.
Oh,
The
okay.
new legislation, yeah.
That
So,
answers your question.
Yeah,
does that
yeah.
help? Yeah. So, Yeah, so it's proven to have done what it was supposed to
Do
do.
you call these short-term rentals businesses? Is that what,
Properties,
properties? Okay.
properties. Yeah.
Are you still continuing to look to identify other properties?
Yes, the software is supposed to sweep ever so often, and, and the Office of Finance goes through, and then if there's questions on the property of identifying the property, we try to help with that where we can, because sometimes, the short-term rental listing doesn't list an address, and sometimes it might identify it as the property next door, and we kind of get involved then. We get help from the town managers as well. Like if it's in the town of Betterton, we might call Tom Mogul and say, okay, here's the picture. Can you definitively tell us what the address on this property is? So we get help from the towns as well, but we do a lot of the research.
Are there any compliance issues?
Don't know yet. Yeah, I can't really answer that question yet. So, good question, though. If there's no other questions on the short-term rentals, the Bayway and Gateways destination assessment program is going on. It's related to the ferry study, but this is not the ferry study. So this is looking at destinations on the water by way of the Chesapeake Bay that could be potential for tourism to come in. So the three that were identified was Chestertown, Rock Hall, and Betterton. So we have 3 teams put together. Rock Hall's team is solid. We're working on a couple additional members for Chestertown. Tom Mogul's been very helpful. We're working on some additional members for the Betterton team as well. And this is to do assessments of the amenities are there. Do we need more? If we were to bring tourists here, what else do we need to serve them? Transportation, food, lodging, all of those things. What is there for them to do once they get here? So this is kind of like doing an evaluation of what you have, and then what do you need to improve in future years to get that destination to where it needs to be. But it is related to the ferry study, but it's not for the ferry. Does that make sense? And the National Park Service is a big part of this as well.
They're funding it, or what do they do?
So the National Park Service right now is providing technical assistance. The funding came through an EDA grant, and it Visit Anne Arundel, and there were like 4 other counties that contributed money to this program. So that's how the current workshops are being funded.
Well, this is great information to have, no matter how the ferry is, connected to
absolutely.
it.
Yep, yeah, have those like asset maps, there we go, that's the
Yeah.
word, asset maps.
Yeah, and then what's missing?
Yep. Shallon just finished shoot with Outdoor Delmarva last week. There will be 2 episodes based on segments, thank you. Based on the amount of great material and footage that they got here in Kent County. There was a deer hunt.
We went on
And-
a guided deer hunt, and then we filmed at Molly's.
There you go, thank you.
And what
then
is it, outdoor?
Outdoors Delmarva, it's through
WBOC, Channel 16. So that'll be coming up, and
This weekend.
she'll share it once we get our copies of it as well. And she also attended the Maryland Travel and Tourism Summit, was last week as well, so. And that's just like a meeting of all the tourism partners throughout the state of Maryland. And they do some educational workshops as well as, networking and sharing of information. I have 2 groundbreakings coming up. One is for the emergency services facility out on Vickers Drive. You all should have received an invitation to that. And then the groundbreaking for the Millington Senior Village is December 3rd. You should have received that as well. If you have any questions, let me know.
Jamie, is the one on Vickers Drive replacing the one that was in Wharton? No, Lynch, I'm sorry.
I can't answer that question, Paula. I would think they would still need coverage out there in the county, but I don't know that answer. So I could check with Pete, but yeah, I honestly don't know.
I wasn't sure if they were closing the Lynch operation.
I can check for you, but I can't answer that. Okay. Career tour Maryland Business Roundtable Next Generation Scholars, Andra Anderson, will be here tomorrow with two groups of students. They're going to be doing two groups. One is going to go downtown, the other one's going to come here to the building. They'll receive presentations, meet with a couple of the county commissioners, I believe, department heads, get a tour of the building, and then they will switch, and the group from downtown will come here, and the group from here will go downtown. So we've done that in the past. Also, I will say that Andra needs volunteers for mock interviews for the 13th of December. So if anybody has any availability to do that,
For the high
mock
school?
interviews with students, with high school students to help prepare them, just let me know if you're available and I can send you the information for that.
What are they interviewing? I mean,
You,
what's the nature of the interview?
it's a mock interview, like if you were going to hire them, what questions would you ask as an employer?
Okay, so that they're interviewing you as prospective employees.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you're interviewing them, yes. Am I getting that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You meet some really interesting people.
Yeah, and I've done it in the past.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to swing it this time. So if there is anybody available, please let me know. And Andra's wonderful to work with, so we love working with her. Yeah, I think I got two other announcements. We have the Ag Breakfast meeting coming up with the Maryland Extension Office. That is December the 11th. It opens at 7:30 a.m. Breakfast is at 8 o'clock. We will be there this year and working with Dwayne on ways to partner with the Ag Extension Office. And then last one, I believe, the Maryland Department of Planning has a Brownfield Conference coming up. And it is, I've got the information here. Why is it not showing? Do you remember the date for that, Paula? Cannot find it. That's okay. I can send it out if anyone's interested. Oh, here we go. Friday, November 15th. So this Friday. Sorry about that, guys. But it is this Friday, and it's in Montgomery Park Business Center. So if anybody's interested in that, I've attended in the past, and I can't really, I'm not saying it's not worth it. We do have about 7 brownfield sites here in Kent County. Not going to say it's not worth it, but the amount of time that it would take to really understand how to navigate those programs and engage with the EPA and the MDE and MDP and all of the agencies that have to coordinate, it's a pretty heavy lift. So, but we have, owners of a couple of those properties, we have referred to these resources as well, so.
Well, so on your staff reports, you can't, under the continuing project, you do have brownfield properties research.
Yes,
So
Yep.
is there anything to report now that you brought up the topic?
Yeah, not really yet, Judy. We identified the properties. What we've done so far is printed out the assessment sheets. So then the next thing is to look at who owns those properties and is there the desire to sell those properties and have them redeveloped. And if there is, then do we look at, and that's what I want to bring to the commission once I get that information, is to say, do we want to move forward with a brownfield credit? Would it be worth the lift for those 7 properties to offer a brownfield tax credit that would help us to develop those 7 properties?
So the county would offer them a tax credit?
It's a state program.
Okay.
But the county has to opt into it and adopt local legislation to kind of trigger it.
Okay.
So that's the question, is that something we should be looking into? And I'm not quite there yet, but yes. So, and I would bring that to you guys to look at it and see if you think if it's worth doing.
So
for
when you
those-
say you're not quite there yet, are you doing I don't quite get the process.
Just looking at the properties, seeing who owns them, seeing if there's a desire to sell them and develop them.
Okay.
Sure, if there's no desire to sell, then there's no sense in
No
putting
project.
any resources
Right.
toward it.
Right.
I only know of two that are for sale or that are on the table right now.
So you wouldn't do it if you only had two? You wouldn't go for the credit?
That's what I would ask
Yeah.
for. I would ask for input from the commission. Is that something we should
Yeah.
go before the commissioners and ask for?
Okay. Jamie and your staff are always busy. Any questions of your team from the commission?
Don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Unfinished business. Going once?
I don't have any, I don't know where this would go, but Paula, Jamie, and I don't know who else went to that ESLC meeting. That was quite good on planning. You see
No,
that?
also, was it good?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was pretty, yeah, I mean, it could have been presented a little better. She was kind of hard to hear sometimes. There's no microphone and, if you yeah, but it had a lot of good information. And one of the things that she brought up was that it's important to know your cost and consequences of projects. And I think we need to think about that and figure out who's doing it, who's not, who should be doing it, what we should be doing, how we can do it, you know, what outside sources we need to bring in or resources to get done on certain projects, because, you know, there's something like, if you don't look at the possibility, then it becomes your fate. And, you know, we should really have a handle on some projects that come forward and just sort of what's our process for that. And maybe we can discuss that and think about what we could be doing, should be doing, to better evaluate our costs and our consequences of big projects especially. And she mentioned that she would be a resource because she's already done some of the background, all of the background for the ESLC project, that if we hired her, it would be at a reduced rate because she's already got a lot of that already.
This person is a
collected.
consultant?
Yes. I forgot her name, Heather or something, I don't know.
I don't remember. I know it's in the notes.
They
I
have,
don't
I think they sent out the link. If I have it, Dick, I'll send it to you and Charlie.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, I could say- well, Jamie, you might have the link. Did you get the
I'm pretty
follow-up?
sure I do. I can send it to you.
And I think they have the whole slideshow on that.
I'd like to see, yeah, that'd be great.
I think Elsie has another talk coming up on rising waters.
Yeah, I saw that.
Other old business?
Oh, Heather Worthington was her name with Urban
Thank
3.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good catch. Let's move on to new business. One of the things for new business or for the next item, agenda items for next month, and that is the elections that I mentioned earlier. We'd like to have a new chairman in place to start the year in January, so we have one meeting between now and then to get that done. So be thinking about it. If we want to move Charlie out of the sequence of chairs, now's your time to do it. Other new business? Items for next month.
I thought it might be interesting, it doesn't have to be next month, but looking at the other staff report list, it says Museums of Kent, and it might be fun to get an update on what's happening with that, and I think we have an intern or something working on that?
Good group.
Yes, and Rose knows a lot about that.
Yeah, so I think
do you
that
want
would be
me to
good.
put
I don't know about what month, but soon.
We could actually put that on December's, because I tried to get, so if Rose is okay with that, we'll put her on the December meeting to give an update on that. She's been very involved with the museum, so that would be great. So in December, we have Larry DeRay, the town manager, and the new town planning zoning administrator, Bradley Moore, are going to come in and present to the commission, introduce, obviously, Bradley to everyone, but then also talk about, you know, what development is happening in and around Chestertown, commercial, residential, and ways that we could collaborate better together. So,
Maybe we can do the museums on January, because last year we didn't even have a January, we didn't have anything on the agenda last
actually,
year.
I already have one person for the January, so if we could fill her in on December in case something else comes, because I've got Susan.
Okay, it just seemed like a lot, that's all.
Yeah. Two is a lot?
Well, we had two this month. I mean, we usually don't have more than two, I didn't think, but,
Right.
okay, that's fine, whatever.
Okay.
Do we want
Bradley
to,
is taking cases.
Correct. And they did spend 30 days overlap So Larry was very pleased that they got to spend that time together and kind of share that knowledge, and he said it was a really good, smooth handoff and transition. So that was really good to hear. So, but they'll be here to talk more about that, and we'll get to meet Bradley.
And then there's the new person for Chestertown, or Main Street.
Sunny, yes. And I think Bill and I meet with her on Friday, so, yep.
That's exciting.
Huntsberger. Huntsinger, sorry. Huntsinger.
Do we want to dig deeper into either of the two reports that we received today?
I'd like to dig deeper into the Delmarva Index.
Well, then we'll have some homework to do between now
Yeah,
and then.
yeah, good.
Go on that site, go deep into the data.
Want that on January then? Okay.
That'd be good.
I would be really interested in John Hickman's survey in January, which is surveying businesses under a new presidential administration, and see what the attitudes are, how
It's a little
things
early.
are
Yeah, I mean,
changing.
after they're in for a while? or-
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they take the survey until January.
Yeah.
So they won't be ready in January.
There'll be a lot of thought. Other new business?
Yeah.
Or items for our agenda? Public comments? Anybody in the audience?
Hi, Nance. She snuck in on us.
I've got a question for you later, Nancy, but unless you have to go. Public comments?
We want to introduce Christina Highland. So Christina Highland is our part-time social media,
Expert.
what do we call it, social media manager. But she's also, the reason, she's coming in the office on Wednesdays to help us with other stuff as well. So she's helping us with HubSpot, putting information into there as well. So doing some additional things in addition to the tourism social media. So Christina.
Christina, give us 20 seconds on your background.
I'm sure. Christina Highland. I've lived in Kent County since 1998. I'm related to half of Rockfall. And I'm a local realtor and mother of 3.
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the cause? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.